Hello Rover peeps. This is a very cold day. It's actually 0 degrees and I am absolutely freezing. So today I've got to do some things. Going to give you a quick car update. Where was I last time? I'd replaced the alternator, hadn't I? And probably the belt. And still had some problems. So I haven't got any footage of this, but a Rover friend came over and we got the car up in the air. And down here somewhere you've got access to the solenoid and everything, and what it turned out was we just had to clean all of that up and everything's fine. What we did discover, what I thought was a bit of a throaty V8 engine, was actually a blowing exhaust. So I've since had the exhaust replaced, or most of it replaced. Car sounds quite sweet, but it's not running really nicely because obviously the tune that I did was kind of compensating for not having a good exhaust. The other thing that's happened as well is that slackened off, which I had been told that once you fit an alternator belt, a fan belt, they can then loosen a little bit. So yeah, normal driving is fine, but you start to put some electrical load on it and it starts to squeal. The other thing I've got is a new one of these, because when we were doing some work we found that it's actually quite frayed there, so that's not looking so clever. So I've got a new one to go on there. And I know I haven't done any videos for this yet. In the summer when I was actually making the FASD work again and discovering that the car was actually running off the carburetors, it was only running off this and it had been for years and years and years. Absolutely insane. There's an erratic increase in revs when the engine is warm. And again, Rover friend and I took as much off the manifold as we possibly could. We were trying to find a vacuum leak, because it must have been a vacuum leak, and we could never really get to the bottom of it, but we did seem to tame it. That's back. And I made a happy discovery while sitting in some traffic with it scooting up to 1500 revs, yeah, 1500 revs. And I had reason to tap the brake, and I've later discovered that it's got to be this thing here. There's got to be a vacuum leak here. When we worked in the summer, we disturbed it, and that seemed to tame it a little bit, and it makes tuning the engine really difficult because the engine just goes off on one, and it's because of this. If I pump the brakes, that's the engine speed comes down. And I know it's not at the manifold end. We took that apart, we cleaned it, everything's good there. I fiddled with this since a little bit just to move it around, and it's got to be this. It has to be. So it's a push fit, I think. Well, yes, you are. I've got a junked servo in the shed somewhere, so I'll have a look at them, in a bit, and see if I've actually got that piece still sitting in it, and see how it goes together. But I think it's to do with this. Anyway, so jobs today. Definitely going to change that because that's nice and easy to do. I want to try and do a quick engine tune, and believe me, it will have to be quick. And then if I've got some time, I'll get onto that. And I'm in my spares, and this is very possibly the original brake servo that was on my car. It's missing the valve. I was hoping to be able to find it so I could see how that gets removed, but it does look like it's just a push fit, so that's pretty good. So grommet, and then it pushes into that. So I wonder if this is actually salvageable. It's pretty rusty there. Anyway, right, well, I found that, mind you, while I was digging around in all the parts, I did come across all of these. These could be quite useful, especially that one there. They're going to go on the doors. That looks like a trim clip. Pretty good nick. And we've got a few places where boot lining could do with one of those. Jubilee clip. I'm going to pop that on the expansion tank, just hold that hose in place. Return hose, overflow hose. Actually, whenever I go through my parts bin, I always come across things that were originally on the car that have been subsequently removed. These must be the original elbows for the car. I think I might give those a clean up. Not looking too bad. I noticed on, which one was it now? There's a nick in one of these. I can't see it now. Oh, I might see if they clean up. Oh, there it is. There it is. I wonder if I could just gently hammer that straight. It might be a bit of a clean-up. I mean, as a series, you know, very early series 2, it should have these more darker metal elbows on it rather than the shiny ones. It'd be quite nice to return it back to standard again. Bit of an irony, really, isn't it? Because the car was rebuilt a long time ago with all latest parts, and I'm going to slowly start putting old bits back on it. Nothing ever seems to go right, does it really? That's on, but it's on tight. Massive gap here though. I mean, that's the positive. I'd expect that to go right the way around it. Oh, good lord. Nothing ever seems to go right. Should have been an easy thing to do. I might leave that for now. Crack on with the next thing. So I wasn't happy with that, so I thought what I'd do is replace the bolt from the old terminal with a new one. Except it doesn't really seem to like fit nicely. But then I noticed there's a U on this side, and I thought, well, given that these terminals, I don't know if they're straight up. I mean, I'm mashing this terminal. This was an expensive battery. This doesn't feel right. I'm gonna have one last go. I'm gonna fit it this U side, and if not, I'm gonna put the old battery, the old terminal back on. Okay, that's better. That's clamped quite nicely over it, nice and tight. Phew, all right. And the alarm went off as well, so it's clearly working electrics wise. So, what's the next job? Sort this out, wasn't it? Actually, no, it wasn't. It was to tighten that. But what I've forgotten is what a faff it is, because I need to loosen the alternator, and to do that, I've got to get the cruise control bellows off. So cold today. Right, let's take that off, and then we'll put so many washers. Actually, take this hose off. It's way too cold to keep videoing things, but crowbar action is done. Oh, that belt is much tighter now, so I'm gonna do up all the bolts, and that's done. God, it's so cold. Compared to other videos, you can really see the difference that the new exhaust makes. So, quite smooth. that whirring, is that expected? Not entirely sure I actually need to tune the engine. Got a water leak in this hose. Just tighten that up, lift that up. Well, that's pressurised. What's the engine speed doing? Look at that, if I pump the brakes, speed comes down. Well, that's going to be a job for another day. Right, so I'm going to go and give this a bit of a test sometime later after my tinkerage on the car. Let's see how the car does. Right, so here's the verdict then. We've got... That seems to be reading a little bit low. I'm pretty certain that if I had... Oh, what's that? That's 15. That's like 6 PSI. That would cut the engine. So maybe the sender's a bit dodgy. I don't know. Temperature gauge seems to hover about there. Might go over 90 and come back again. I think the water leak that I just nipped up, that's actually helped pressurise the system, because that was actually going over towards the red before and then coming back. It was wobbling around as I was driving around, so it's actually contained it. It's probably another bit of a leak or a weep or something like that somewhere. Could be the cap. Cap's relatively new though. Only bought it a few months ago, so because like a lot of things on the car, I had the wrong cap on the car. Then engine speed, well, I think that's where the car is actually timed to. I'm pumping the brakes, and having wiggled the valve and pushed the hose further onto the valve, the engine speed isn't racing away like it was. It's running a little bit high, but I mean, I didn't get to tune it today. I think that gives me something to work with. So all in all, that's not bad really, is it? And you get to see my dashboard lit up as well. Isn't that nice?